for head coaching positions because they want, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm saying it's a natural, ambitious thing, but they want to show off a little bit.
Yeah.
And so part of me thinks he's going to want the ball deep downfield because that's the easiest way to show off. Part of me thinks he's going to do what worked in Philadelphia, which is really emphasizing the tight ends, and I can see Kyle Rudolph having a big year.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is if you have a guy like him who wants to go deep downfield, and I think that's their intention. Yeah. They want to do a lot of that. But you also have him coming in and, on the other side of the ball, you've got the number one defense in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to take a lot of chances with this or unnecessary chances. So to me, it's going to be really interesting to see how that dynamic works between him and Zimmer. Zimmer's philosophy of our defense will always keep us in games. We don't need to be stupid. We don't need to turn over the ball. And I also find it really interesting that DiFilippo comes in and automatically people are saying, you know what, if this offense is good, he's a head coach next year. You don't know that for a fact. I mean, yeah, he's got some interest already, this offseason. But you never know what's going to happen around the rest of the NFL, and you never know, the other coaches that'll become available, the ones that looked impressive maybe this year coming up. So I don't think it should be an assumption that automatically he's gone. I think that's a little bit more Minnesota fear, like, anytime we have success, it's going to leave us.
PJ Fleck's going to leave us?
Oh, yeah. Oh no.
I remember 2 years ago, people were definitely afraid that Richard Pitino was going to leave.
Yeah, all right. I mean, win a championship and then be worried about that sort of thing.
But that's the interesting aspect of this. You think, okay, DiFilippo comes in, and if he does well, he's gonna move on, right? And you say, okay, if Cousins comes, but the standard is you got to do better than they did last year, right?
Yeah.
So how does DiFilippo probably has to get to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl to establish that he did even better than Pat Shurmur? Yeah,
he does, and I think because you had an offense last year that was on the fringe of being in the top 10, if he can move it into a top 5 offense, then I think it's legitimate that he could be a head coach next year.
We have a live question. Sir, introduce yourself.
Dan, Viking fan for many years. What do you think about the Canadian wide receiver we have? This number one Canadian league last year.
Yep.
Does he have a shot?
He does.
He does.
Yeah, so
thank you.
You are talking
Grab
about
a hat if you want.
Brandon Zylstra, who local product who went up to the CFL last year. I talked to him, I think it was last week, about the whole process of not being drafted, not getting a lot of interest from NFL teams coming out of college, and now he goes up to the CFL. I think he had about 500 yards his first season. Last season he led the CFL. I think it was 1,600 yards that he had. I mean, really good. And it's a little different game, but what they like about him is he's not necessarily a speedster, but he's a pretty big guy, and I think he's a decent enough with his speed. So what he's done is he's leaned on Adam Thielen because he had a high school teammate. Zylstra had a high school teammate that knew Adam Thielen, gave him the number. They connected before Zylstra ever signed with the Vikings. So he got some advice on route running, and I think he's also learned from Thielen as he's been here this spring.
So he's the same as Treadwell?
No, I think they're very different, actually.
Yeah, I think Zylstra's got a little more wiggle to him than Treadwell. And I think the attitude is a little different. Treadwell tends to get down on himself real easily. I think Treadwell has a lot more pressure on him to perform, former number one pick. So Zylstra's kind of, first of all, Zylstra's not going to be a number 3 receiver this year. He's got to kind of get used to the NFL game and all that. At best, he's got a chance to be like a number 5 or 6 receiver that starts to prove himself. Treadwell needs to be a probably 40-catch guy this year, or the Vikings are going to start to make other plans. It's just that point in his career. 2 years as a first-round draft pick, and you have 1 catch in your first year and 20 catches in your second year.
Not good enough.
You got to do more than that.
Absolutely. If anybody would like to sponsor the program along with our current sponsors, you can email me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. We're kind of filling up for the fall, so hurry if you'd like to jump in with us. If you listen to the show and you can download it before you listen, that's the best listening experience, uninterrupted. It's also good for our business. And I want to thank one of our longest-running sponsors on the network, Twill in the Edina Galleria. It's right there on France Avenue. The Edina Galleria is an easy place to go shop. Great restaurants in there, great shopping. Barnes & Noble, Starbucks, whatever else. It's not like going to the Mall of America where you have to park. I shouldn't rip the Mall of America because we have clients in the Mall of America. But the Edina Galleria is easier to get in and out of. It just is. So check out twillmn.com. Check out Twill, Twill, on Instagram. Or stop by the shop and say hello to Scott. He's usually there, and he usually has a game on in the back.
Jim usually doesn't like to shop for clothes. I don't like it when he shops for clothes either, because he used to buy stuff I'd want to throw out. That's why I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We spend our money at Twill because we love the clothes and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
All right. If there's a concern at this point, what is it?
To me, it's offensive line.
Still?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. You don't have Pat Elflein back yet. He's still dealing with ankle and shoulder, or recovering from ankle and shoulder surgeries this offseason. So now you got Nick Easton playing center, and Elflein, who hasn't worked with Kirk Cousins yet in a full team session. You wonder, how's the communication going to be there? And if Elflein comes back, do they automatically put him at center, or because Easton has been playing center with Cousins so far, is Elflein a guard? So you have that question. Then let's just assume that it's Elflein at center, Easton at left guard where he was last year. Now the right side of the offensive line, you still don't know. To me, it looks like they're pretty well set on Mike Remmers at right guard, and which probably is going to mean Rashad Hill out at right tackle. Now, Hill went on a weight loss program to get in better shape, all this. Well, guess what? First full team practice, it's about 15 minutes in, and he's throwing up in the end zone. So, whether that's illness or whether it has something to do with his diet that isn't agreeing with him, I don't know. But, that it's a little disconcerting when it's, 15 minutes into your first full team practice of training camp and you're already throwing up. So, I don't know. I mean, to me, that's really the biggest concern with this team. Still offensive line. If they had settled in, if Elflein's there, everything's going smoothly, then, you just start saying injuries is the only thing you worry about. But right now, I still got to see it from the offensive line. And
if I ask you what the strengths of this team are going into this training camp, would you say anything surprising at this point?
No, I don't think so. To me, I'm really, really impressed with their depth in the secondary, especially at cornerback. I mean, I've talked about Mike Hughes in the past and how impressed I am with him and his speed and all that. And I think he's got a chance to really challenge Mackenzie Alexander for that nickel cornerback spot. Today, Holton Hill stood out for me, and he's an undrafted guy. And, I'm not saying he's going to challenge for a starting spot this season, but I think he's going to make the roster if he keeps this up, because he was right there with cuts that Diggs was making, keeping up with him. And he's a big guy, too. So, to me, I see some similarities with Xavier Rhodes and Holton Hill in their body structure, how big and strong they are. It's just a matter of getting him used to the NFL and giving him time to get there. And if he does, that's definitely a strength, and the defensive line is pretty loaded too. I mean, it just continues to be Zimmer's philosophy of pass rushers and cover guys.
So there's a rumor going around that Mike Zimmer jumped into a fight today.
Yeah.
And he's not as old as Sid, but he's a little old for that.
Well, and he's out there limping around too, Yeah, he did.
What is he doing?
Well, first of all, he's not going to be intimidated. He wants to play tough guy coach. And so he had a couple guys that were throwing punches, which is really one of the dumbest things about training camp is guys in helmets that are teammates throwing punches at each other, because the best thing that can happen is they all get out of there healthy. The worst thing that can happen is the guy that's throwing the punch is breaking his hand on a helmet. So, yeah, he jumped in there and pulled them apart and said afterwards, he was asked about, well, how do they know it's going to be you that's pulling them off the pile? And he said, they'll know it's me. So, he's just going to be screaming at him. It's one of those things at training camp. Sometimes I kind of enjoy the fights, but usually it's when it's against another team and there's something that you can see is brewing and it kind of finally comes to a head. This one was just kind of out of the blue. Backup tackle, Aviante Collins, going against a backup linebacker, Devontae Downs, and both of them are kind of roster fringe players. So I guess it wouldn't have been the worst thing if one of them got hurt. It'd be better than Riley Reef trying to smack up Anthony Barr. But hey, training camp, I'm just surprised it happened so soon. I mean, the veterans have only been in for 2 days.
Usually it happens because these guys are so sick of seeing each other, and they're so sick of doing drills against each other, and somebody just finally snaps.
And that's what's going to be interesting when the Jaguars come in at the end of training camp, start practicing against them. They've got a really good defense, too. Now are people getting sick of each other and going after it there? And then, that's that's 2 and 3 days before they play each other in the preseason, so you wonder if things do break out during those practices, is that going to carry over into the final preseason game? Or it's not the final preseason game, but into that preseason game. So, hey, training camp.
I want to ask you about Marcus Sherrills and Mike Hughes. I do want to thank Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Tony sponsors this show and a couple other shows on the network. We did a show from his place recently up in Champlin Park. 11351 Aquila Drive, number 104 in Champlin. It's a nice little strip mall, lots of stuff to do. If you ever want to drop by and chat with Tony, he's a big sports fan. He's always around. Again, Tony Hoaglund, Hoaglund.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
So here's my thing. I'm at camp watching everything going on. You were at camp, right?
I was at camp, yeah.
Okay. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mike.
Okay. So I want to get a fan's perspective. Like, which bleachers were you in? What did you think of the experience at TCO?
Yeah, I was in the paid bleachers.
Okay.
And I think it was great. I've been to Mankato, and I think they did a good job with it. I think that difference where you can't go up and see the players and be along that line and talk to them, I think that's a big difference. But at the end of practice today, Eric Kendricks came over to an area where the fans could get to him.
Oh, okay.
So I think there may be some of that where the guys realize that they need to do that on their own.
Yeah. And I will say this, I like it that the bleachers are kind of, one's in the back of the end zone, the other one's on the sideline, and they're always practicing on those two fields now. So at least they're practicing over by the fans, whereas Mankato, sometimes you could be a field or two away. How about everything surrounding the practice?
Yeah, that part's awesome. I mean, having the Vikings locker room there, so you can go and get your swag.
Yep.
And then also the museum. That I recommend anybody.
Really nice.
Yeah, anybody who's a Viking fan, go in and see that museum, because all that history is just absolutely incredible from the very beginning, showing the founding documents. It's pretty amazing stuff. So I would highly recommend that. That makes it a really good thing.
What was your favorite part of the museum?
The decade of dominance.
Okay. Yeah.
The glory days.
Yep.
And then they also did a really good job with footballs from important moments. Mm-hmm. So they had Adrian's, where he broke the single game rushing records on there. It's a whole wall of footballs with just sort of highlights of big Viking moments and players. That's a really cool exhibit as well.
And did you see the Minneapolis Miracle too?
Yeah.
And did you notice that that's the actual football coming out of the wall?
I saw that it was a...
Yeah, they got the picture, like a big mural of Diggs going up for it, and then they have the actual football there.
I saw it was a real football. I didn't realize it was the football.
It is the football, yep.
Wow. Yeah, they have a circling video of that catch and the sideline camera where you see Diggs coming towards the camera, and then the sort of melee inside the tunnel. That's shots I'd never seen before. That's pretty cool to see as well.
Yep,
absolutely. And when we got the tour, they did a great job of telling some of the stories behind them.